Right, hello everyone. So I'm here with Arch Warhammer, and we're going to be talking about how Black Lives Matter is a religion of peace. Um, and we're going to be just going through some of the peaceful things that they say, because they're so damn peaceful that there have been a lot of Black Lives Matter supporters on Twitter who are very pleased with the day's events, and I think it's really worth pointing this out. How have you been finding all this, Arch?
Well, it's been finding me. It's all the media's been talking about for the last few hours, with various interesting spins on it. There's an uncomfortable amount of people that seem to be blaming the police for this.
Yes, I've seen an awful lot of that as well. Right, okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen in a minute. I'm just getting a bunch of these tweets together because I'm just staggered. I mean, but I'm not staggered. That's the problem. I knew something else was going to happen, man. I fucking knew it, because these people, it's just like with fucking the Donald Trump assassination. It's just like it. They sit there and they just bounce off this fucking echo chamber of cops are evil. Yeah, they're really evil. What do you do to evil things? You kill evil things. Well, it should be okay to kill cops, and yeah, that must be good. Blah 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 blah. And eventually, someone's going to fucking do it. You know.
It was inevitable, pretty much, but I had perhaps expected this to start in a little bit more of a subdued manner. Like, this was, and for all intents and purposes, this looks planned and prepared, you know?
Honestly, it kind of does. I mean, I bet the conspiracy theorists are going to have a whale of a time it being a sniper and all that. They're bound to be. I mean, he's bound to have some sort of government connection or something.
They do like that word, don't they? Sniper.
They do, and then the mysterious they will be be doing things behind the scenes. It'll be terrible. But right, so okay, let's talk about what led up to this then. Because I've got to be honest, I don't think that the shootings of the two black men that led up to this protest were entirely justified. The video I saw of what was the first guy? Alton Sterling? Yeah, Alton Sterling. I saw the new footage. I'll tweet it out actually, so people can see what we're talking about, because there's new footage of it, and it's not entirely convincing that he was a threat to these three cops. So yeah, I'll screen share now and we can have a quick look at it. But I just want to show people what I mean. Right, there won't be any sound for everyone, but you'll be able to see what's going on. Yes, come on, Guardian. What is this?
This must be.
This is after he's been shot, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's not what I thought it was. There was another one I'll find. There was one I should have saved it. I don't know why I didn't. But and if you search for Alton Sterling, all you get is people responding to Alton Sterling. So,
I think I found it.
You got it?
Here in chat. I think that's it.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Right.
And that is where he gets shot.
Yeah. So he didn't really look like he was capable of drawing a gun on someone. it looked like they had him pinned to me.
Yes. In the video, you can hear one of the cops shouting, "Gun, gun," and right after that, the shot is fired. But he was in no position to resist, gun or not, in that case.
Yeah, and you notice how quick the guy moved as well when they said gun. I mean, this is the point where gun, and then straight to his holster. He doesn't even look for the gun. You know, it doesn't even. It's a dog whistle. You know, it's obviously something they're trained to respond very quickly to, and with good reason. I'm not saying they shouldn't be trained to respond to someone saying, "Hey, this guy's got a gun," but I mean, this guy wasn't able to raise his arms, so it doesn't look justified to me at all, and it looks like the cops reacted too much.
Yeah, it almost looked like a bit of. I'd almost like to say a bit of an accidental reaction, like a hair trigger.
Yeah.
Trigger, like, because there's no reason for him to shoot him in the back of the neck, which is practically what he's doing here at that range. Like, that's.
It's in the chest, I think. It's in the chest of the guy.
In the chest, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, either way, I don't think he was capable of pulling a gun on them from that position. But the speed at which the guy's arm goes to his thing, it's incredible. I mean, that's some serious training there, And then he pauses, and it's like, okay, but the guy isn't moving. You've got a few seconds to be like, right, is he actually a threat? And I mean, come on, the guy's not able to do anything, And
I feel like this was more of like either an in-trained reaction, or I almost want to say he slipped, which is no excuse by any stretch of the imagination, but it's hard to imagine a police officer just executing someone like that practically.
Yeah, sorry, can you bear with me a minute? I'll be back in a sec. Sorry about this.
Okay, let's look at some chat then, while we wait for Sargon. It is for the court to decide anyway, not us bunch of assholes from Malcolm Sr. That is actually a really good point. Yes, this obviously also, this is a court case right now. This is we not passing any judgments, obviously, but I mean the footage is fairly clear, I would probably venture to say.
Sorry, what was that you'd venture to say?
No, somebody commented that it's for the courts to decide from here on out, and I agreed with them, but the footage is fairly obvious.
We're obviously just giving our opinions on the footage. Right, okay. And what was the name of the second guy? The one with the melodious name?
Yes, Castile something. I've got it here. Give me a moment.
Thank you.
Philando Castile.
Yeah, he sounds like the protagonist in a romance novel or something, doesn't he?
He does. It's a beautiful name. That was the guy who got shot for pulling out his license after the police asked him to pull out his license.
Yeah, this one absolutely certainly not justified. So I can genuinely understand the anger about these. I mean, with good reason. Have you got a link to it or clips or anything?
Let's see.
I'll find one if you don't.
This one is after the shooting. That's from the BBC, I believe.
I don't think the girlfriend managed to catch the shooting, probably because she wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, because
why would she be? Yeah, I don't want to use the mirror, but I'm gonna have to. It looks like. Yeah,
he was trying to get out his license to carry. It appears that she's saying. Interesting. Did they confiscate a weapon before this? I'm not entirely sure.
No, I don't think they did. But You can't hear that, can you?
No, I cannot.
Right. So basically, she says he was getting out his license from his wallet after the cop had asked him to get it out when the cop shot him. So I mean, there's literally no reason there as far as I can see. The guy obviously wasn't resisting anything. The policeman says, "Get your license out so I can see it," and then shoots him when he puts his hand down to get the license. And the thing is, let me just. Yeah, okay, right. The cop sounds fucking terrified.
If you listen a little bit further, it would appear that he was armed.
Right, okay. But even then, that doesn't justify that,
No, certainly. He explained he was reaching for his license because he apparently had a license to carry a weapon, which America.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's something that happens in America, so you have to accept that on the face of it. But yeah, so the cop yells at her to keep both hands on the wheel, and she's the one staying calm. The cop's freaking the fuck out. I really hate Google Hangouts, so I should play the fucking video through it. I should have done this on Skype or something and streamed via that. But yeah, so the guy is the cop sounds fucking freaked out, and I'm pretty sure that there was another article I read where apparently you can hear him going fuck, 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 as in he clearly knows he fucked up, but he sounds so fucking nervous, and it's just like, man, these guys sound terrified of dealing with people.
It really does. Like, a lot of this sounds like it can be like I would almost say poor training. Like it sounds like they have this natural instinct that's bred into them, obviously, because they need to have this in a dangerous environment, but they are on far too much of a hair trigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was on Drunken Peasants the other night, and I was saying to them, look, every time I see American police interacting with other people, they seem to be really aggressive and authoritarian, as if they need to dominate that person, even if the conversation isn't about them doing something wrong, And I really think that this is something that's a result of their training. And I'm not saying that it's not, it doesn't have justifications in certain circumstances. And I'm not saying that any of this has been done for nefarious reasons, but I'm saying that this has got to the point where we can see that, look, whatever they're doing it probably wrong. It doesn't seem to be doing the police any favors. It doesn't seem to be doing them a service when they're out doing their job. In fact, it seems to be putting them in more danger than it's necessary to be in, I think.
Yeah, because I can definitely see why. I see the reasoning why they feel they need to be domineering and authoritative, because this is a country where people carry guns legally. I mean, you essentially seek to instill a certain amount of shock and awe at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it. And I'm not saying, exactly like you say, I'm not saying there's not a good reason, but I do think it's the wrong approach.
Yeah, because he's obviously not working. I mean, this was a guy that was shot after he had said, claiming the girlfriend, so, I can't say for sure, but I'll take your word for it. He said he had a firearm, and he was reaching for his license to carry, which, of course, is legal, so...
Which is what the police officer asked him to do.
Exactly.
So... Yeah, I don't see the... There's no, in my opinion, as far as I can see, there's absolutely no justification for that. And so, and this is what I think a lot of people, and I noticed that I'm not trying to point fingers, but what I often see happens is an event happens, and then the progressive media starts lying about it and starts making up their own narrative where this person's a fucking saint, like Michael Brown. And it's just like, Michael Brown is not a fucking saint, okay? He is actually the worst example. I mean, you couldn't... He's a terrible example of, Black Lives Matter, And then the right-wing media will craft a counter-narrative where the person is a complete devil, like they've done with the Alton Charlton guy. It's like, look, I don't really care if he had a criminal history. At the time, he wasn't really capable of shooting anyone. They all had him pinned. It doesn't look justified. So it doesn't matter if he has a terrible history. What they did in the moment wasn't justified. I mean, they probably didn't know the history anyway, so it's not an adequate defense. But these counter narratives get created because one side's taking the most extreme position where it's just this is all we're going to say, and completely ignore any other side of it, which is what that the counter narrative has to become. It's all the other way. So they're both polarizing to the point where one is right and the other's wrong. It doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on, and so it's important to remember that there are police out there who are genuinely bad at their jobs, badly trained, nervous on the job, and they make some pretty dangerous and deadly mistakes. But by the same token, there are also plenty of cops who don't do this. And on the other side, and it sounds almost remedial to have to say, but this is what people just assume if you talk about a portion of any of this subject. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's people keep forgetting, I feel, that the simple fact is police officers are humans. They are capable of making mistakes. And making mistakes in an environment where at least one party, maybe both parties, have guns, it often turns out bad.
Yeah, I mean, someone in the chat's like, nervous people shouldn't be cops. It's like, dude, I agree with you. But what if the training is making them nervous? What if they're getting what if they're getting only the bad? So if the training is just, I mean, if it majorly hinges on literally right. If you hear gun, you say gun, so all the other cops know they've got a gun. You get your gun out because shit's about to go down because someone has a gun. You don't want to get shot. You don't want your comrades to get shot. You don't want civilians to get shot. It gets drilled into them really hard. They could be coming out of these training seminars paranoid as fuck.
Of course they are. And I mean, then their career on the streets as well. They've probably heard some fucking horror stories, haven't they?
Well, yeah, absolutely. They've, without a doubt, especially after what happened next, really, I guess. So yeah, let's then go on to that. So there was a protest in Dallas. There were quite a few people at it, as far as I'm aware, and there was a chap called, what was his name? Micah Xavier Johnson. He had no previous criminal history or ties to terror groups, and 12 officers were shot, with 5 being killed. And this starts at around 8:45 p.m. on Thursday in Dallas. Johnson, he's apparently he's been arrested?
I think, this is the dead guy. The one that was killed after holding up in, was it parking house or something?
Right, okay. Because the new story I'm reading from Fox 13, I don't know why I'm reading them, but says that
the gunman was killed by a bomb detonation by authorities following negotiations. So yeah, this was the guy that was held up.
Yeah, so he had a bomb. He was a Black Lives Matter supporter. He apparently wanted to kill officers. He expressed killing white people, killing white officers. He expressed anger for Black Lives Matter. So, and we see this all the time. I'm just gonna dig up some tweets. I've asked people to send them to me because it just like.
Quick note, I don't know if he had a bomb. It just said the gunman was killed by a bomb detonated by authorities. I'm not entirely sure what that means.
So I'm going to see if that guy T wants to go on. But yeah, so let me just get some of these. Sorry, I'm just digging through my tweets. I get loads of fucking tweets. Apparently, people have been hearing that both gang members. And I suppose the 2 people who were shot were gang members. I don't know how true that is, but they think it could account for the police edginess. It's like, well, true, but did they know they were gang members when they were
Well, it depends. The guy with the gun license was pulled over in his car. Maybe they got a hit of his license plate, etc. We're not sure.
Yeah.
The guy that was shot outside the store, he had a complaint called in against him from the store owner, apparently, that said he had a gun. So they probably were fairly cautious in approaching him.
So this is what I mean. I've got some people who've got Trump hats, and I'm going to assume that means they're right wing. Like saying things like the Philando Castile pulled over. He was matching the description of a person who committed an armed robbery 4 blocks away 4 days prior. So yeah, but that doesn't actually justify shooting him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that justifies pulling him over and searching him, and he told you he had a weapon and a license to carry. I mean, maybe he moved too quickly, perhaps, but I don't know. I wasn't there. Nevertheless, I find it hard to believe that the cop would have a reason to carry him, because from what we've seen, the cop had him covered.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed that the cop acted nervously, you know. So I'm just getting these tabs up, and one of them is Micah Johnson's Facebook, where he appears to be giving the Black Power fist. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Jesus. How did this was fucking Nazo.
He is affiliated with so-called black nationalists, which is an interesting term.
Oh, we're talking. No. Are we talking the
Yeah, that's Micah.
Like Ghazi Kodzo style, international
Yes.
Pan-Africanism.
Yep, pretty much. In fact, I think exactly that. I believe. Here we are. This is a picture of the fellow with. I'm pretty sure that is the same symbol that our friend Ghazi likes to flash on the jacket of the guy he's clenching fists with.
Right. Okay. Hey T, how's it going? Not that well, then.
He joined and then he immediately left. I guess he's got connection problems.
All right, T, try and get back in, man. Are you back?
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, man.
So, what's your take on all of this then so far?
It's a bit. I mean, it's back and forth. You know, you have. I mean, nothing's cut and dry. It's not one of those situations where you can just say, "Oh, this is the narrative. This is the enemy. This is the bad side. This is the good side." There's a lot of nuance in all these different cases, but yeah, from what you guys have been talking about so far, it's pretty accurate. You know, for example, me personally, I'm not thinking that either Alton Sterling nor Philando's deaths were necessarily justified. Particularly Philando, and also the other guy he's not really getting that much media attention, but the white country boy, I forgot his name, but he was killed I think like 2 weeks ago, but he just made his way into the headlines.
Sorry, a white country boy.
Yeah, he was stepping out of his pickup truck. I think he was on the ground while police were trying to detain him, and then they shot him while he was on the ground.
Jesus, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, it's not making headlines. It's just popping up here and there.
Wrong skin color, I guess, for the media.
Well, maybe you should think about, he should have thought about transitioning to get some media attention.
Probably, Sean King will probably get more traction.
Yeah, but he's pretty white too, so let's be honest. Right, okay, so I'm going to share my screen. This is the sort of stuff I see a lot coming from Black Lives Matter, and I'm just like, what do you
Jesus.
When you get rhetoric like this, and then peaceful protests that don't do shit. I'm glad them Dallas officers got shot. See how they feel it, and then here's Micah Johnson with some black Africanist. Yeah, wonderful stuff. Use force if necessary against the police. Make your voice heard. Right, okay. Unapologetically African. With a K.
So being African means using force against the police. I think some people might disagree with that.
Yeah. To me, he's like Moses. No good man could witness such abuses and not feel compelled to do something. Jesus Christ. Most good men don't have sniper rifles, do they?
And I've noticed this trend too among a lot of the people. They always said, "Well, I don't disagree with what he did, but at least he did something. At least something was done." It's like, no, that's not a good justification. If he
Yeah.
went out and raped female cops, would you say, "Well, at least he did something. At least he
Yeah,
tried."
at least he wasn't lazy. Jesus. That's unbelievable. Because, I mean, at this point, I mean, what political goals are Black Lives Matter actually asking for? I mean, I don't really understand, like, what the end goal they're looking for is.
There really isn't one. I mean, first of all, Black Lives Matter is a disorganized organization. So it's kind of like it's just like called a claim that everyone claims to be, but there's no central,
So it's a lot like feminism,
establishment.
right?
Pretty much, and that's why a lot of people have said, like, what he did is not representing Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter doesn't advocate killing of cops, when that's completely disingenuous. I mean, it's arguable that not all Black Lives Matter activists advocate the killing of cops, but when you can see mobs of Black Lives Matter protesters chanting, "What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it now?" Like you really can't just sit there and defend the notion that no Black Lives Matter activists want dead cops.
Yeah, especially when you've got a large group of people chanting this. It's like, look, how are people supposed to interpret this other than a terrorist group? I mean, you seem thrilled that one of your number killed a bunch of cops. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of a good way of justifying it. How are you supposed to justify that?
I was supposed to engage with someone today, actually, down at the Atlanta Civil Rights Center. I just wanted to talk to them. They're a pretty prominent figure in Black Lives Matter. I think they're like the president of the Morehouse Association or something like that, the Black college in Georgia. And I just wanted to talk to them about what their opinions were, in regards to the recent shootings, in regards to, gun rights and how it relate to, the Philandro case, and basically just exactly what Black Lives Matter wants to see come about from these things. This was prior to the Dallas shooting, but unfortunately, he said okay originally, but around like 20 minutes later, he said, "Never mind, I don't want to associate with you." And I went on his Twitter to actually see why, and it turns out he identifies as a queer intersectional feminist. So,
well, some people have got problems, and they often label themselves so we can tell.
But yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through a few more tweets just because I'm just honestly I can't imagine, like, it's almost like these people are virtue signaling to each other about this, So like, it's just.
How fucked up does society have to be to virtue signal about killing police officers?
Yeah.
Those two cops that were shot in Dallas, I hope they were.
I love some very much alive guy says they need to learn how it feels. I can't. Oh, no, what the fuck is that? Why is this one up twice? Right, okay, this was from Sean King, right?
Yeah.
Dear America, you have pushed people to the brink. So little justice, so much police brutality and racial terror. The straw is about to break the camel's back. We are right there. I feel it inside of my own heart and soul. I see it with my friends and family. We're at the boiling point. I don't know what's next. I mean, Sean, that sounds like a threat.
Right? I mean, he knows what's next. What's next is some black person who's probably in a much lower tax bracket than him is going to see this post, get upset, go out and shoot a cop, and he's going to profit off of the media. Yeah. That's what's going to happen next. He knows what he's on. He's not at the breaking point. He's not going to go out and pick up a pistol against cops. He's an agitator. He's hustling. He's hustling people, and unfortunately, they don't even know they're being hustled.
No, that's true. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no way Sean King's going to fucking go and do something, is there? He's just going to incite other people to do something and raise the emotional level of it. And it's just like, Jesus, man. Honestly, I was out on my phone, so I couldn't get a good picture, but I just get a picture of the film Friday and just, all blunts matter or something. Just everyone's just chill the fuck out, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, yeah, shit's bad, but panicking never improves anything. Losing your fucking head is just. And wasn't there another one in St. Louis?
Can I say that again?
Another shooting of a cop in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, there was one in St. Louis. I don't think they found the guy yet. There was an issue where the police were doing a traffic stop. And apparently, when the cop was walking back to his car after he originally came out and checked the license and all that, the guy who was stopped got out and apparently shot him in the back and fled. So I don't know any further developments on that one. Apparently, there was some shootings in Georgia against police as well, and there was also apparently just a random shooting by someone who said they were agitated with cops. I don't know if anyone got injured in that case, and I don't exactly remember exactly where that one was, but.
Missouri, probably. At least that's what the one I've heard of.
Yeah, it might have been Missouri.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm just Googling. So, I mean, okay, so as a black man, T, what's your opinion of Black Lives Matter and what's going on?
Well, it hasn't much changed. I've never been a sympathizer of Black Lives Matter, but now I think it's getting to the point where Black Lives Matter is going to start. They're going to have to divide themselves, and people who want to distance themselves from the violent rhetoric, from the actual terrorist ideals of this movement or terrorist elements, they're going to have to find a new movement, because the radicals aren't going to leave. They have this movement. They know that it has the ability to instigate political power and political awareness. They know that they can get at the table with Hillary Clinton with this organization. They know that they can shame people with this organization. They know they can get emotional rage out of people with this organization. But radicals are going to leave this Black Lives Matter. So as far as any type of reform of Black Lives Matter, of trying to make it back to the way it was, or get it back focused on the issues it first started off about police brutality, is not going to happen. It's been completely hijacked by the regressive left, and I don't know. I feel like regressive left doesn't really do justice to people who are actually going out and killing people. So maybe we should find another term for going further.
I think the sort of I don't know how to describe them. They're like Pan-Africanists or something. The sort of African nationalist guys.
Yeah, the fake woke niggas.
Yeah. These strike me as the people who are actually going to do violence. They seem to be very militant. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. And even if they're not, if they don't plan to do violence, they definitely back up the rhetoric, and they definitely, claim that they'll do it, or they have sympathy for those who do perform violent acts. And it does center around this, Pan-Africanist movement where, basically the oppressor is a white man. We have to kill the white man in order to claim our people back. Basically just a blatant disregard for white life in general. Yeah, and it's unfortunate that has taken over the Black Lives Matter movement. But to be honest, anyone who didn't have blinders on saw it coming.
Yeah, that's basically why I've done videos about Black Hitler. Really, he's exactly like Sean King. He's never going to lift a gun himself, but goddamn, he's going to tell a lot of other people to do it. And there are going to be less vocal but more action-minded people in the movement, as there is in every movement, that are going to just think, well, I've been told this by people all around me. Everyone's saying this. All the media I consume says this in some way or another, whether it's subtle or overt. So eventually you're going to get it into your head that it's the right thing to do. And why wouldn't you follow through?
Have you sent Black Hitler his reparation money yet?
I have not. I'm still oppressing him by not giving him free money. I'm such a colonialist. But right, okay. So what's the media reaction in the States like? Is it generally supportive of Black Lives Matter or not?
It depends. You have the main three media outlets, which are going to be like MSNBC, ABC, which is going to be the far left outlet, Fox News, the far right, and CNN, which is kind of the middle ground, mid-left outlet. And of course, the far right, Fox News is not going to be on board with Black Lives Matter. They're not going to defend them, and they're going to be as skeptical as possible in regards to any cases. Like, for example, when the videos came out, they're going to be the ones who are going to say, let's wait up for all the information, which isn't unreasonable, but they're also not going to take a stance and say, this is wrong. This is obviously it looks like this may be a case of brutality or police misconduct or just poor policemanship in general. And then you have the far left who's going to defend Black Lives Matter constantly and is constantly going to demonize cops. But after the shooting, there's been a pretty consistent trend of everyone rallying in support of these police officers. There haven't been any real mainstream media outlets that have kind of tried to defend the shooter. So yeah, I think it's been pretty consistent in that regard.
Thank God, at least the media is keeping their cool on for once.
Yeah, someone sent me a Huffington Post article. I'll just get it.
But there is an outrage going on right now where, well, not really outrage, but a little mini outrage, where they're mad that CNN apparently labeled Micah Xavier as Micah X.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. They surely weren't thinking about what they were doing there. They were just like, well, that's his surname. We're just gonna, people say, so someone, just the first letter. That's something they do. It's not necessarily right. Okay, so this is the Huffington Post, who have already don't blame Black Lives Matter for the death of the Dallas cops.
Equality, justice, and freedom, huh?
Yeah. I've just got some more. Oh no, that was the old ones. But Micah Xavier Johnson was a martyr for the cause. Fucking martyrs now.
I'm surprised Twitter isn't actually cracking down on this, because if anything qualifies as hate messages...
Well, yeah, but, what are you going to do? But I do love this. This is just, it's like Islam. It really is. It advocates equality, justice, and freedom, not murder. It's like, well, we've seen loads of people saying that this is a good thing. So, you can say that they're like no true Black Lives Matter supporter, but that's just a fallacy, isn't it? I mean, you can't say these people don't support Black Lives Matter. So the statement from the Dallas police chief was, the suspect said he was upset about Black Lives Matter. He said he was upset about the recent shootings, upset with white people. He wanted to kill white people, especially white officers. The suspect stated, we will eventually find the IEDs. The suspect stated he was not affiliated with in-groups and stated that he did this alone. The suspect said that other things are part of the investigation, so he can make sure everyone associated with this trial is brought justice. Yeah, blah, blah, right. So, I mean, it's entirely possible he was operating alone, I suppose.
To be honest, I'm pretty sure Black Lives Matter did not directly have any responsibility in this, but you have to ask yourself, where did he get this idea from?
Yeah, they're certainly creating the conditions for it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that, I love this. I love this. Just like the official Black Lives Matter Twitter advocates dignity, justice, and freedom, not murder. So yeah, but you understand that you're going to have to change all of your rhetoric towards white people now. You can't sit there and demonize white people as the evil enemy and then say, oh, we're just about justice and freedom. It's like, no, dude, come on. I mean, let's be honest. There is a strong anti-white movement within Black Lives Matter. It's very obvious just from any just cursory glance, and just trot out the I can't be racist to white people. Instead, that'll work.
And I feel like there's this idea that if Black Lives Matter becomes more inclusive to the issues of other races or looks at issues objectively as just issues of police acting badly towards individuals rather than police acting badly towards black people, I think there's this idea that I think they might be kind of scared that they'll lose legitimacy, people will just brush off black issues and just say, well, everyone suffers from it, so it's not that bad. But in reality, they think that they're increasing legitimacy by making it solely about black people and excluding other races, when in reality they're not really doing anything to help their movement. They're not making people want to address these issues more. They're making people, feel like, hey, if I address these issues, yeah, I forgot where I was going with there. But
no, I understand what you mean. That if you dilute your rhetoric, then the more hardcore supporters will say that you've become a cuck.
Yeah, pretty much.
So they've cucked for Whitey, whatever. Uncle Tom, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, Uncle Tom, Coon, all that good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Every movement like this has a word for backsliders, and so you'll just get labelled as whatever that word is, and yeah, you'll find yourself being pulled down by it.
Yeah.
It is, in essence, just another extremist organization, which sadly are becoming more and more popular these days.
Oh yeah. The thing with these things is that they egg each other on. That's the thing that I think people have to remember is a lot of these people spend their times in echo chambers where they don't listen to outside opinions. That any outside opinion is just derided as being racist, and they'll just tell each other what they want to hear, and it just keeps escalating.
Yeah, that's why I always say. I always tell people I wish that I knew, or I could talk to, or I could say that I talk to, reasonable Black Lives Matter activists. That I communicate with the ones who aren't radical, the ones who actually want police reform. And I wish I could, and I try to, but they all block me. Yeah, whenever I say something that goes against their narrative, they block me. So it's like, I don't know if there's any good ones out there. I see the bad ones, but the good ones, they just don't want to hear me.
Man, I've been exactly the fucking same. I genuinely made an honest attempt to, like this was ages ago, went to just try and get someone from Black Lives Matter on a stream so I can talk to them, because goddamn, I would love to hear from these people. I've made several attempts, in fact, I think, on Twitter. Just, at the hashtag, go, look, anyone. You don't have to have any followers. You can literally be pleb, nobody, but just support the cause. And I want to talk to you about what you think you're doing and what's going on. And, I want to get inside your mindset. And not one response. Not one response. And it's just like, Jesus. And I'm thinking about my time with Gamergate, where we couldn't get the media to talk to us. We were desperate for the media to talk to us, and they wouldn't. And it's the complete opposite, as far as I can tell, with Black Lives Matter.
It's, it's classical, isn't it? When you get an organization like this, you cannot have anyone contesting your narrative. Because God forbid that people were actually to say something that would make sense. You'd lose traction, obviously, which is bad.
Oh, you'd think you'd want to be persuading people if you were right.
Well, that's the thing. They don't see it as persuading people. You're just wrong, and you can't be persuaded because you are wrong. The Nazis had the exact same idea. You couldn't fix a Jew. He's a Jew. It's pretty much the same thing.
Apparently, there's also reports of just another fucking day in America. Apparently, there's an active shooter in Miami Children's Hospital.
Well, right now?
Yeah.
You've got a link you can send me?
Yeah. I think someone actually just mentioned this on Twitter. Let me post it in the chat.
Jesus Christ, man. What the fuck is going on in your country? I tell you what, man, keep your fucking head down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't do anything stupid.
At some point,
it's funny because
good.
It's funny because the other day I just thought about buying a dashiki just for the hell of it. But then all I see on CNN now is the pictures of Micah with his dashiki, and I'm like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah, no, that's gonna get you in trouble. So a bomb threat and an active shooter, Jesus. So do you know anything about the gunman? We do not know anything about the gunman. Okay, well, I guess we'll have to wait for some information to come in about that.
And the thing that I hate about these things is that I want to see this type of news and just be generally concerned about the well-being of the people. But in the back of my mind, all I can think about is the aftermath of people trying to exploit it. I'm thinking right now, what if it's a white guy? Then all the black men are gonna say, "Look at the white guy shooting." It's like I don't want to think like that, but I've been conditioned through Twitter because every time something happens, I see this bullshit 24/7. So it's like that's the initial thought that comes to my mind is how someone's going to exploit it. How is this going to suit somebody's narrative?
Yeah. I actually try to make a point of not making videos about these things directly after the event because A, a lot of the time extra information comes in that I want to keep track of, but B, I don't just want to jump on it. It's I might make a video that's tangentially related, like with the gay nightclub shooting. I made a video, Islam doesn't permit homosexuality, because it was an important thing to discuss. But I don't just want to jump on the issue generally, because it's just like, I don't feel like a vulture,
Yeah, like chasing ambulances.
Yeah, exactly, but sometimes there are important issues that are raised by this, and I really think that the attitude of American police is that issue that needs to be talked about. Because the black people, I saw some stats the other day, that black people are 30% of deaths of police shootings, whereas they're 13% of the population. So they are overrepresented, but they're not the majority by any stretch of the imagination. Whereas if you talk to anyone from Black Lives Matter, that's what they're going to tell you. And so it's like, okay, yes, there are more than might be expected, but let's be honest, let's look at the culture they're coming from, and it's very aggressive, very gang-focused. Is it that surprising?
Yeah, and they also try to paint it as, the majority of black people who are killed by cops are, just completely unarmed, innocent, nonviolent people. Where that's not the case. Granted, there are plenty of there are several situations in which people are unarmed and black people aren't unarmed and killed by police, and the situations where the definition of armed in America can really be flipped or messed with, tampered with to suit someone to. It happens all the time where people you say, yeah, he had a pocket knife or a box cutter in his pocket, so he was armed. But but there are plenty of situations where there are actually legitimate violent people that are against police.
Yeah, I've just got some stats. These are what we're looking at the other day, from the Washington Post for 2015. This is so. In 2015, according to the Washington Post, 900 people were shot dead by police. 782 of those had a deadly weapon. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that they're all justified, but if they had a deadly weapon, there is at least a better case to be made for they're probably not irrational, murders. Only 93 of them were unarmed. So, the vast majority had some kind of weapon. And so, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting the police are perfect or anything, but that's not as bad as I was expecting, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be a lot worse than that.
The way it's painted in the media and through Black Lives Matter, you would think it's like just all, just 12-year-olds just getting shot in the face.
Exactly.
For no fucking reason.
Exactly, and yeah, and obviously the race breakdown, 494 of these were white, so half of these were white, 258 were black, 172 Hispanic, and then just over 50 unknown or other. So, yes, black people are being disproportionately represented, but, I mean, I really do think that can be adequately explained by the culture that we see, that they're operating in. And not only that, but recidivism as well. A lot of these guys are on, like, second or third strikes, aren't they?
Yeah, and that Alton Sterling was on his third strike.
Exactly, and this is something that we see that's quite common, and it's like, well, I agree that there are definitely, there's probably an attitude within the police department of certain black communities where it makes them edgy. I've got no doubt, and I've got no doubt that that's completely justified by the amount of, say, black-on-black crime that they see in those communities. But how many black people have shot other black people in Chicago so far this year?
Mm-hmm.
It's a ridiculous number.
Yeah, I think it was 68 last week, or either last week or last month. I can't remember exactly which one.
Yeah, it was something like that. I mean, that is a crazy high number for 6 months in one city, you know. So I can understand these cops being, you know, particularly nervous. I can't remember where I was fucking going with that now, but it was. I hope it was making sense.
They're not shooting people just because funny, basically.
Yeah. There's it's a gang culture, obviously, and I mean, how easy do you think it is to get sucked into that sort of culture, T?
The gang culture?
Yeah.
It's fairly easy to be, especially in very low income areas like Chicago. It's super easy. You know, it's like, you know, you're bored. You know, you don't really have any strong family structures in your community. You know, you have this admiration of, you know, of hip hop lavishness, of, you know, being rich and famous and getting girls and getting fancy cars and shoes and all that stuff. And you see, you know, well, yeah, all of my idols, you know, that I see on TV, you know, they look like, you know, you guys won't know who these people are, but Chief Keef,
I don't know who that is.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, all these hip hop idols, you know, they just resemble,
basically, yeah.
Yeah, they just resemble gang culture, and people say, well, I want to be like this guy, so I'm going to go join this gang, or I want to get what he has, and he did it, or he at least claims he did it through selling drugs, or, you know, through all this, so I'm going to go through these means so I can achieve it too. It's yeah, it's really easy to get sucked into gang culture, and even if you're not wanting to go into gang culture, you know, you still are reciprocal to the violence that it exudes.
Yeah.
I imagine, and I'm speaking from a point of complete ignorance here, so do excuse me, but I imagine in some cases this also is almost a necessity, that the gangs provide a certain structure to young people, etc.
He says like a necessity.
Oh yeah, the gangs provide like an emotional one. Like the gangs provide sort of the missing family structure that they need.
Oh,
yeah, it's a natural instinct almost.
Yeah. They're kind of like the just the response to, you know, a lack of family structure and a lack of community organization, because people want to be associated with others. You know, they want to have some sort of meaning, some place of purpose. And unfortunately, in a lot of areas, they find it in gangs.
They want to be friends with the cool kids, so to say.
Yeah, but all young men look up to older men, you know, because older men are obviously more established, worldly wise, usually more physically intimidating, and things like, you know, it's completely natural for young men to look up to older men. And if you've got extreme fatherlessness in these communities, I mean, these are the people that the young men would normally be looking up to, right? I mean, you know, if they're missing and they're not providing an example, and the only example you can see is some dude who's driving. Don't get me wrong, he's driving around a fucking pimped out car with fucking music blaring and bitches in the back seat or something. He looks awesome, but you know, he's not a decent guy.
And for a 13-year-old, no questions.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I was going to say. These guys are like living like a teenage boy's fantasy, you know. It's just, you know, oh, I'm super strong, I'm super hard, I've got all the girls, I've got loads of money, you know, fuck everything. It's like a fucking nihilistic teenager, you know?
Yeah, and it's a continuing cycle, because, I mean, most of them don't make it to be past that cycle. Most of them, even once they reach that point of, you know, living out their fantasy, you know, they get locked up or they get killed. And then by that point, you know, there's no one older to say, oh, look, he made it past that situation, and look where he's at now. You know, maybe I want to resemble that. All they see is the ones who are in the community right now, and it's usually young black men, or, you know, you have the old heads, but they're still like in almost the same situation. It's a lot of fucked up stuff surrounding it.
Yeah. Right.
And I will say, you know, for anyone in the chat who's trying to blame this on American culture, I will say that I'm 99% sure that the reason that all of this is happening right now is because of Brexit.
I will agree to that.
Yeah, it was those racist Brexiteers making the black people in Dallas shoot cops. Fucking
Causing worldwide fear, man. You have to stand up and take some responsibility for this.
Yeah, oh my god, this is all my fault, more importantly.
Exactly, cops getting killed, Castro getting out, it's all Brexit.
You've got a lot to answer for, Brexit. Right, I'm just gonna go grab a cup of tea because I'm absolutely parched, and I should have sat down with a fresh one when I started the stream. It was my fault. But if you guys want to talk about anything, or if you've got any more articles or anything like that, please go ahead, have a chat with the chat, and I'll be back in like 5.
Yeah, there was one that I was linked to a moment ago. Apparently, there's a situation in my state of Georgia where apparently a man called 911 to report a break-in and ended up ambushing police officers upon arrival when they came to investigate.
That sounds like a healthy hobby.
Yeah, it's so what's going on, across the pond? Anything bad happening in the rest of the world?
I know, I live in Norway. This is a perfect paradise most of the time. Our cops don't even have guns. We rely primarily on strong language and blunt force to cause our cooperation.
Well, in the way we're going forward, that's all you're going to need against progressives. Strong language. That'll put them in a fetal position.
As long as they remain the feminist kind, we're probably fine. It's the black nationalists worry me a little bit.
Yeah.
I actually watched a documentary, although documentary is a bit of a strong word, called America's Black Resistance Movement, recently made by BBC. That was an interesting one. I think it was a gun club, so not a political organization or anything, but it was a gun club exclusively for African Americans, and they did marches, rallies, fully armed with assault rifles and bulletproof vests and shit.
So it's kind of like a militia type thing?
Pretty much.
Huh.
Now, don't get me wrong, I also think that the white militias are fucking laughable, but at least they don't usually march through the streets shouting Black Power.
Yeah, and even when they do, you can't really lay claim to that many KKK murders or people who kill people in the name of white supremacy in today's current time in America. I think the only one that I really know of that was done so would be Dylan Roof, but outside of that, it's not really that common.
Yeah, because the KKK has received a somewhat shoddy image over the last few decades.
Yeah, and people have rightly come to conclude that they're not a good organization, but apparently it's going to take a little bit more time for people to say the same thing with Black Lives Matter.
Well, it's that strange thing with us humans. Like, on a basic level, I think we understand that black people or yellow people or white people can all be racist, but it's going to take a while for the public image to catch up to that realization.
Yeah, and right now I don't think it's going so well because it's even that when you have obvious racism, overt racism, like what we see in Dallas, where the guy actually said he wants to kill police officers, specifically white police officers and white people, if no police officers were available. That's racism. You can't say anything else besides that is racism. And people are, they're timid to say, they're like, yeah, he might have been kind of racist, but let's look at the justifications. Let's look at the, systematic oppression he's faced. Let's go back to his history or what he was angry about. It's like, no, just say this was a racist mass murderer. It's not that hard to condemn him.
One moment. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more of an obvious label you can put on it. Like, if you're actually saying, I want to kill white people, maybe it's racist.
Just maybe. Yeah, probably.
Possibly.
I would put my money on it.
It's a funny thing, and it's also the simple fact that, well, he didn't just talk about it. This was a guy that actually got armed and went out and did it. In fact, several people now that we know of went out and did it, which... that's a worrying thought. Like, since when did police officers become, common targets? Yeah.
Well, they've always been common targets, at least in terms of rhetoric, at least in terms of vocal opposition.
I'm sorry.
But this level of, just collective hatred, collective assault against them, especially what we've seen in the last 24, 48 hours, it's pretty, it's taking it to the next level of what you would have expected, which is just people, saying, wow, we want dead cops, we hate cops. But, once you actually see, dead bodies of innocent police officers, you have to put your money where your mouth is, and granted, I don't support them, but there are some Black Lives Matter people out there who we saw their tweets earlier who aren't being hypocritical and are saying, yes, I called for dead cops and I'm glad there are dead cops. Whereas there are other ones who are kind of in denial and saying, like, no Black Lives Matter activists celebrate dead cops. No, none of us wanted this. No, some of you did. And this is what you got. And this is the reality that we're met with, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sure many within the Black Lives Matter leadership, if they could be said to have one, didn't wish for this, because killing police officers is usually not a good idea for your political credibility. But they have to stand up for their own rhetoric. Like, there was a lot of Nazis that didn't necessarily want to wipe out the Jews, yet we kind of still blame them for it, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and like Sarah was saying earlier, all in the midst of all of this, the core message of what is requested of police reform, combating police brutality, it's completely lost because people are now up in arms. It's gone from this is an issue of police harassing black people to this is the issue of black people being angry at white people because some police are white and some police harass black people. So it's molded, or it's evolved from simply a political outreach program or political response to a almost full-out race war. I don't want to play the South Park clip just yet, but it seems like it's getting there.
It does, doesn't it? And I think if any country is going to have something like that, it's going to be America, because you funny little people have that whole resistance against the government thing.
Yeah.
So occasionally, which terrible idea in my opinion. Don't do it.
Yeah, and like you said, if you would envision it happening anywhere, it probably would be in America. And I don't know. I just hope it's not like the LA race riots again across the whole country. One, because I still haven't gotten approved for my concealed carry permit, so just hold off just a little bit before you start shooting people. And two, I don't think it'll be that fun. I mean, granted, I want the end of the world to happen as bad as anyone else, but I want more of a zombie apocalypse type thing. I don't really want racial genocide.
Exactly. Make it sporting, something sci-fi related, rather than just a good old-fashioned war. Because those are boring. We've had those.
Yeah. Nobody needs that, and that's not anything anybody really wants to see happen. If you're going to go all out, at least make it something memorable. Make it something for the history books. Let's have the first. I don't know. Let's just give Trump the nukes and see what happens.
Ah, yes, the Trump. I do hope he wins, just because I'm safe on the other side. So.
I think everybody wants him to win, and I think now where people are especially in these type of situations, they're like all these. The thing is, there's going to be much more guilt by association, which actually is what fueled the response of these Dallas police shootings, because people associated all police officers with the actions of these two that we saw in these last few videos. And unfortunately, this it's not something that can be avoided, and it's happening to the left too. Everyone is associating, these shootings with Black Lives Matter, which is a leftist organization, an organization that is supported by Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and they're all, it's all going to be associated that, or assume that, the left is the cause, which in some way it is, but not entirely. But the left is the cause of these, of this, racial tension in America, and people are going to see that and they're going to say, well, I don't want more of this for the next 4 years. Maybe I should look at that Trump guy and, see where he stands. And now that Trump's toning down his rhetoric and being slightly more reasonable in things he says publicly, it seems like it's a perfect storm setting up for him.
Yeah, it's the simple fact is that when something like this happens, a lot of people will jump to conclusions. That's just how we humans work.
Yeah.
And like to go to the extremes. Now, granted, America has been a very I don't like to use the word conservative, but it kind of fits. For a very long time, with the political class, so to say, have been the ruling class, and Trump definitely, if nothing else, he certainly presents a alternative from that. And people will see then. I really think that anything bad that happens now, up until the election, he's going to be able to take credit for pretty much everything, because he's going to be able to point at some kind of established structure and go like, aha, see? That's why you need me.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I don't know if you noticed the other day on Twitter, there was a hashtag, or I think it might have been today, actually, earlier today, or it was maybe last night. It said, what was it, Write in Bernie. And it was just, a lot of people, saying that, or making a pledge that they're going to write in Bernie rather than vote for Hillary. And, that's another thing that may fare well for Trump, splitting the Democratic vote. But I've noticed there's a lot of people, drifting off of Black Lives Matter topic for a bit. There's just a lot of people I've noticed that are really, really scared of writing in Bernie because they really, really don't want Trump to win. And the thing is, Hillary doesn't align with their principles. Hillary doesn't align with what they want. They know she's corrupt. They know she doesn't give two shits about minority communities. They know that she's basically your average, the best of what you could think of a corporatist politician to be. But they just really, really are scared of Trump, and they're willing to sacrifice their principles and go with the win and get Hillary in just to make sure that Trump doesn't get in. And of course, you see it on the other side as well, where people are like, we have to vote for Trump just to make sure we don't get Hillary in. But I don't know. I feel like the fear is more prevalent on the left of Trump than it is on the right of Hillary.
Certainly, because the thing is, Trump has been painted like the boogeyman of the century. Like, he's literally been called the new Hitler, which is a hilarious comparison. I mean, personally, I don't think he's that bad. I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be the best president ever by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think he's going to leave the country a blasted wasteland either.
God, you just don't appreciate the value of walls, do you? A glorious wall with Trump's face painted all over it is going to make America greater than it's ever been, all right?
Because I'm Norwegian. We don't even have a border with Sweden. We literally just tore down all of the trees to make it more inclusive.
I actually saw something hilarious earlier on Twitter, which the guy deleted his tweet, so I didn't get to screenshot it. But he said that this is the reason why we need the wall. Another terrorist coming from Afghanistan waging war on our cops, because the guy served in Afghanistan in the military.
Look, being informed isn't necessarily for everyone, all right? In his mind,
reservist.
He came from Afghanistan at one point, apparently. So, okay. So this, what I'm screen sharing here is something called the Black Power Political Organization. That was some Facebook group with 303 likes that claimed responsibility for this guy's shooting. I'm just going to zoom in a bit so you can see it. So, Black Power, hashtag Black Knights, sniper assassins take down 5 police officers, and more will be assassinated in the coming days. Do you like the work of our assassins? Get your own sniper rifle and join our thousands of sniper assassins worldwide in the fight against oppression. I mean,
it sounds like a 12-year-old.
Exactly. This sounds like complete nonsense. This sounds like total bullshit.
Somebody's played too much.
Which is why someone was like, "Holy shit, Team Rocket, calm down."
But I'm curious, is this page still up?
No. I was looking at a police Facebook group, and they say that this organization has apparently taken responsibility for the attack. The group's Facebook account has since been taken down.
Look at that profile picture, though.
Yeah, this is. I mean, exactly. Look at the background. I mean, like it looks like someone who plays Call of Duty has done this.
Like, this is my first meme ever.
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't at all look credible to me. I mean, Jesus, horrible. But yeah, I don't know how true that is. But there's this interesting, again on the Washington Post, interesting study was done apparently that found that police are something like 3 times more likely to 3 times less likely to shoot unarmed black suspects than unarmed white suspects, which which is interesting.
Well, statistically speaking, you'd think that to be accurate because there's more white people.
Yeah, but I have seen studies similar that have said a lot of police officers are saying that they're more cautious of using lethal force against black people, simply due to the media outrage that would ensue. Granted, I don't know how credible that is. That's just going off of their word, but I have seen information.
I can believe that is something to bear in mind. I mean, these police officers are becoming famous, for shooting someone on the job. So I mean, it's not like that's something a lot of people are going to be agitating for, is it?
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of these cops that do perform these shootings, you can tell that when they do it, it's usually not premeditated. So I'm not gonna, say that, they're just going out looking to murder, black people.
No.
A lot of like the two that we saw in the video with Alton Sterling and Philando. Right after the cops did it, both of them were, like hysterical. They were like, "Oh fuck," they're almost tearing up because they were almost in shock,
Yeah.
And I think it's just it's just an unfortunate. A lot of these cops, they're first of all, they're not well trained, and their instinctual reaction, like I think you guys touched on earlier, the way they're trained.
Well, I've got this right here. In fact, you've said you're right. So I'll just read this paragraph out. Officers are hesitant to fire on black suspects. Starting with a 1977 analysis of reports from major metropolitan departments, which found officers fired more shots at white suspects than black suspects, possibly because of public sentiment concerning the treatment of blacks. And then in 2004, David Klinger at the University of Missouri St. Louis interviewed more than 100 officers and found evidence of increased wariness about using deadly force against black suspects for fear of how it would be perceived and the associated consequences. That doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, it's exactly what I'd expect.
It's the kind of stuff we see in Britain, for example, also.
Yeah, exactly, with Muslims. Absolutely. It can become a crippling fear where, they will catch people in the act and let them go on the basis that they don't want to be called racists. Fuck's sake. But yeah, so I don't necessarily think that the American police are like an overtly racist institution. I mean, obviously their job isn't to be racist, but like, I don't know. I don't really see any evidence of it being a sort of institution that attracts people that are necessarily racist, or are eager to abuse other people all the time. A lot of these guys seem scared out of their fucking minds, man.
Yeah, and I would definitely wouldn't say it's necessarily an organization that attracts races, but I would say it is an organization that attracts people who want power. There's a lot of police officers out there who just love the ability to just be authoritarians, to just have control over other people, and to just have that sense of hierarchy.
Yeah, no, I can believe you. I can believe it. That is what I would expect, really. But that's something you can expect with any organization, isn't it? I mean, who hasn't had a job under a tyrannical middle manager? Fucking, But I suppose it's scarier when it's the cops, isn't it?
Just yeah. Another thing I read, I looked into that when you were talking about the hesitance of police to shoot at black people rather than white people, and I'm just thinking of it, I'm just thinking of it like the sense of a popularity contest, like, oh look, our side, has less bullets, flying at us than your side.
Way more popular than you are.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that the problem really seems to be that, I mean, this is how it looks from the outside, right? It looks like you've got police who are trained to be excessively authoritarian and given like a crash course in how to be paranoid while in public, and then you've got them and I'm sure they do disproportionately police black neighborhoods, you know, but I think there's a good reason for that. I think there's probably more crime in these neighborhoods, and I think there's a good reason for that. I think it's because of the gang culture that tends to be flourishing in these communities. So, and the fact they're poor and all these other socioeconomic factors, they are things and they do add up, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, inevitably they're going to be coming into contact with more people who are going to resist arrest if they need to be arrested, and so inevitably they're going to be shooting more people, and then you have, and this happens, you know, there are more whites that get shot by blacks. There are plenty of fucking, you know, white people who are belligerent and, you know, whatnot and get into fights with cops, and obviously. But it seems that there's the sort of black identity, or the sort of black identitarians, people who really think about being black as, I mean, an all-consuming part of their personality. You know, I mean, you know what I mean, like the progressive left, where they literally talk about nothing but black identity politics. If you're like Francesca Ramsey, and that's literally her job, is to talk about being black, and it's like, okay. And then, you know, these people really, I think, are the ones who really stoke the flames, where they say, oh, this is racism. It's like, well, no, it's authoritarianism. You know, you're just seeing it because more of the people in this situation are in contact in this sort of confrontational manner with the police more often. And so, you know, it's not actually, I don't think racism is actually the cause of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so either.
You know, I mean, is there anything about that, like the view I've just laid out there, that seems incorrect to you? Because this is just how it looks from the outside, you know?
Not really, and I've had similar thoughts on the situation as well, because, you know, people, no, I don't want to come off as the wacky libertarian again, but there are issues where, you know, a lot of this stuff is caused by the state, and it's caused. I have a theory personally. I'm going to make a video on it in the coming few days, where I think that the reason, because you have to ask yourself, why do so many people have this distrust of police? Why are people, you know, hesitant or, you know, terrified of cops, you know? And even if you're not terrified of cops, you know, in America, there's rarely a sense, especially in major metropolitan cities, of where you just see a cop car and you just feel safe. You know, you either feel, you know, on your toes, where you don't want to do anything wrong because you might get a ticket, or you might cause somebody to pull you over, or, you know, you're at the least you're indifferent. But it's pretty rare to just see a cop and just think, you know, honky dory, you know, I'm so glad I ran into you. And I think that's
really interesting. Oh, sorry, yeah, go on. Tell us what that is, and then I'll ask Arch what his opinion of the cops is.
Sure.
It's not going to be the same. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, and I was just saying, I think that that the reason for that being is because a lot of the encounters that people have, most encounters that people have with police, isn't you know, in the light of what they're doing. It's not in the guise of protecting and serving. It's not, you know, protecting them. It's not, you know, making them feel safe. It's usually, you know, extorting them for money. It's usually, you know, pillaging their communities with a drug war. It's usually enforcing some other BS regulation or statute by the government that doesn't have anything to do with, you know, protecting and serving the people. And I think when people, you know, commonly associate, you know, cops with bad things, you know, bad laws that they're forced to enforce, you know, at the hands of politicians, they're no longer feel safe around cops. You know, I mean, would you feel safe around someone who every time you saw this organization, you were, you know, thought you were going to get extorted for money, or you thought that you were going to get thrown in jail for, you know, having a quarter-second marijuana or something?
And there are a lot of cops that extort people for money.
Well, I'm using extort in the libertarian sense, but I'm like, okay. For example, giving you know, tickets and speed traps and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, personally, I generally don't do anything wrong, so I don't really have a worry about it. But then it doesn't
white privilege.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, you have white privilege, because, yeah, maybe I should join a gang. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't generally feel like the cops in England anyway are running around looking for trouble. You know, they just generally wander around and keep the peace, and not even keep the peace. They just wander around. I mean, for fuck's sake, you know, when they're not there, it's just as peaceful. So it's just like, I mean, what are the police like in Norway?
Generally speaking, they're more walking tourist booths than actual law enforcement.
Yeah, yeah, because not that much happens here, I guess. But yeah, I don't get worried when I see the cops. That's the thing.
And well, your cops have those cute little bullet hats and all those, and
yeah, they do.
I wouldn't be scared if I saw them either.
But what I mean is, whenever I see American cops running around, I've seen loads of videos of them. So I've been planning to do a fucking great video about American police, and I've got loads of good stuff I actually don't want to talk about now because I want to make sure I've got the evidence there, so it doesn't sound like I'm making shit up or something. Because I've got some interesting things to say about the American cops, and not bad, but just things that I think need to be considered. But it's the way they walk and the way they seem to be. They look like they're looking for anything a lot of the time. Like I mean, police officers here, they walk around in a reasonably relaxed manner. They just walk and
smiling, good-humored.
Yeah, a lot of the time. I mean, obviously not all of them, but like, if I were to give them a general sort of air around them, it would be like just wandering around. Obviously keeping an eye, but they're not like going up to people and asking them for their fucking license plate and all this sort of stuff. They don't really do anything unless they have to. Whereas American police look like they're looking for something to do.
Yeah, and it's pretty common, where they're actively like you said, like the stop and frisk laws in United States, for example, where they just basically they do it on the guise of I'm just checking. I've been pulled over a few times where people just say, "Hey man, I just saw you you turned a little funny back there. I just want to check and make sure that everything's okay, And it's like, dude, just let me go. Just let me enjoy my freaking day. You don't have to assume that every person is someone who you just pull up on your registry. You're just hoping that they're guilty of something. Yeah. And something else that police do that I'm curious if they do in England or Norway, in America, police often when they're in their squad cars, they often just run license plates just at random. Just to see, who the person is, see if they have any warrants. I would think that wouldn't be common.
You sound like you're living in a police state.
well, if we say that, then we'll be accused of being, Alex Jones. People say, where's your water filters? But yeah, we are almost living in a police state.
Where is your water filter? Do you even know?
It hasn't come in yet. It's still in the mail.
Exactly. So you're there, sat there without a water filter in a police state. No, but seriously though, I mean, Arch, what do you think of
that? Well, I've never had a problem with the police because, well, first of all, I'm white, so I don't get pulled over, which is nice. And generally speaking, I haven't done anything wrong before. So my only experience with the police is when my crazy father decided he needed a Magnum 44 because he saw one when he was a child and decided, I want that. And the police, as normal procedure, because over here, if you want a gun like that, they literally come to your fucking house and check, okay, first and foremost, are you a psycho? Secondly, do you have a gun cabinet? Etc. So you have to bring in, friends and family, essentially, to vouch for you.
Right, okay. But, in general, they don't just check random license plates, right?
I'm pretty sure they check you if they pull you over, if they're doing speed tests or whatever. But, no, I can't say for sure, because I don't have that much knowledge about the police over here, but I don't imagine they're just sitting in their car munching donuts and scanning random license plates.
No, I've never heard of that. I'm not gonna say they don't do it, because as far as I'm aware, they don't do it. But it might be that they do. I've just never heard about it. But
yeah, it's pretty common. Like in America, if you're driving, you see a police officer behind you, you're 99% sure they just scan your license plate just to see what's going on. And I had that happen to me because I was driving one time and my this was when I was still driving my stepdad's car, and the cop came behind me and he checked the license plate, and my stepdad had a issue where he was the victim of identity theft, so that was associated with his information. So the cop pulled me over, and it's just I asked him, why'd you pull me over? He just said, he just told me to hang tight, and just check the information. And then he came back and said, well, I scanned your license while we were driving, and you came up with the security theft situation. So I just wanted to make sure that you were who you are, and you weren't the person who stole the identity and all that stuff.
Well, that's fair enough,
Yeah,
good reason actually.
But
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the random checking of license plates I find very odd. And I tell you what, I don't really like it. There might be many good reasons for it, but it just sets the wrong tone, in my opinion. It seems that American cops are kind of presuming everyone's guilty, or just that they might be guilty, rather than assuming that they're just innocent because there's no reason to think that they're guilty.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me about it. And I think that this. I mean, we do have stop and frisk here, but it's very controversial, and I don't think the police do it nearly as often as they could on that basis. And it just there just seems to be a different mindset when I look at the operation of the two police forces. It's something that genuinely it's been worrying me for a long time as well. Like in Ferguson, when you saw the pictures of the cops going in there with fucking automatic rifles leveled at the people protesting, and it's like, dude, that's what are you doing? Unless you're going to shoot them, why are you pointing guns at them? They're not actually, I don't think they were actually shooting back or anything. It was a lot of angry people, but they weren't the sort of, you shouldn't be pointing guns at them.
Yeah. So is it? I know you guys cops do have guns, but generally your average patrols, I know, don't have guns, right?
No.
So are guns only appropriate, or do you only see cops with guns if they're called to a situation to handle a situation where guns are required?
Sometimes if it's well, in recent years, if it's an important event or something, you might see police with guns. Like I went to an Olympics. When the Olympics was on, I went to one thing and it was boring as hell, but I think there were cops with guns there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think there were. It wasn't really something I was paying too much attention to, thinking, well, I didn't bring any explosives with me, so I don't think I'm going to get in trouble. But yeah, I'm sure there were, actually, now I think about it. But I don't know, I'd have to look it up, I guess. But yeah, occasionally you will see them, but not like average cops or anything.
Okay.
Over here, the police do not have guns. They have them locked in their cars. They did an experiment where they had general armament for a year just to see what happened, and they didn't go on shooting sprees, and they've taken away their guns again now.
All right, and I'm gonna post this in the chat. So this Sargon wouldn't be common, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, let me just share screen. Yeah, this is not most police in the UK.
Okay.
So I don't know why these guys are walking around with guns.
They look pretty badass, but
Yeah, they look cool, but mostly it would be not even this like aggressive looking. Just mostly it's people like this, where they're just like dudes in vests with a hat and
doing their daily jogging.
Yeah, apparently going, but. Clearly, this is a photo opportunity. Quick, look active. Normally it's a lot more like this, where they're just standing there.
Okay.
Not doing anything.
Sometimes there's a fair bit of armed British police in London, I've noticed, because I've gone there quite a few times on business and stuff.
Yeah,
that seems fairly common, but probably because London.
Yeah, probably because terrorist attacks and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's certainly not common for sort of outside of London. I've been to London and around the country, and it's just not. It's very unusual, very unusual. Or at least it was. Maybe in the last 6 months or something, it's become very usual. I don't know, but yeah, it's. And I even noticed the difference when I was in Germany. I went to the 2009 Oktoberfest. And the police in Germany have got guns, but they didn't have anything like the attitude or at least the police in Bavaria, I say, or at least in Munich, which is where I was. But they didn't seem to have the attitude American cops have. That's the thing that I always notice. The first thing I always notice is just the domineering attitude. It's so confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that common to cops? Is that because I mean, I don't want to be painting them all with the same brush if that's only a minority.
They're not all like that. I've had experiences with several police officers where they're just cool people. They're just doing their job, and sometimes they just talk to you. But I have also had situations where several cops where they've been completely domineering. Basically, almost like an army lieutenant or a boot camp instructor. And I don't know if they do it on purpose or if they like it or if they think that it's like useful to the situation to where it's like making sure that they know you're in charge, but it's definitely common.
Right. Okay. So it's good to know because not good to know, but it's good to know that I'm not wildly off base with this because obviously I'm just looking at video evidence that comes out and I don't have any statistics or anything like that. But it just does seem like quite a common attitude for American police, and honestly, I think that's the worrying thing. I think that's the thing causing, at least exacerbating, and creating more problems than necessary. I really do.
Yeah.
They should consider a change in uniforms. Here, this is a wonderful little picture of the Norwegian police force. Tell me, you would not resist arrest by these people?
No way, I don't believe it. Okay, I'm going to share it just because it's bollocks.
You would not resist.
This is not the Norwegian police force.
Oh man,
that is a slightly touched up version. Here is the original, so to say.
Are they still hiring? I think Justicar might want to join.
They do, however, wear leather jackets and shit, full-on leather gear. Although they're stopping with that now because the Gay Pride Parade got through and they were sick of being confused.
It's cold there, isn't it?
Yes. The problem is they wear full-on leather gear in summer as well, which is not something they're particularly happy about.
Okay, so is there anything else that we should talk about while we're here and on the subject?
Let's see. I know someone did want me to read this out. They want me to read this out on the stream, so I guess I'll do that. Hold on.
Are we going to be getting a chapter from Mein Kampf now?
Nah, not that one. But Shargon, if you could share this.
You sure, man?
So the quote is a quote from Dr. Robert Higgs. It says, "The good cop, bad cop question can be disposed of decisively. The good cop, bad cop question can be disposed of decisively. We need only consider the following: every cop has agreed as part of his job is to enforce laws, all of them. 1. 2. Many of the laws are manifestly unjust or even cruel and wicked. 3. Therefore, every cop has agreed to act as an enforcer of laws that are manifestly unjust or evil or even cruel or wicked. There are no good cops." Which, in a way, I understand his point there, but I think a lot of cops want to be good. And I had this conversation the other day with someone on Twitter after I mentioned, I wrote on Twitter, I don't like Black Lives Matter and I don't like cops, but I would never advocate the indiscriminate slaughter of either. And someone who was following me said, hey, T, I'm a cop. What have I done to make you not like me? And I explained to him, it's not you that I don't like. It's not you as a person I don't like. I'm sure we'd probably get along great at a barbecue. But it's the fact that, unfortunately, your organization is subject to enforce the unjust or, authoritarian will of politicians that often are an infringement on not only personal freedoms, but also just generally, don't fare well or don't lead to any benefit for society. Blocking people up for victimless crimes is an obvious example. So this is a reason why I advocate the privatization of police, especially in America.
So this guy is a libertarian philosopher, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm just looking at this, thinking, wow, it's a bit one-sided, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely one-sided because it's basically saying all cops are bad because they enforce the bad laws. Which if cops enforce bad laws in that action, I do consider them bad cops. But there are legitimate reasons for police. Police are there to protect and serve people, and whether you have it privatized or not, people want that action to be done by police. And I think if police forces had the ability to decide exactly which rules they want to enforce and not automatically have them dictated from the top down from Washington, I think we see a lot more good interactions between police where they're actually protecting and serving. And I think Jessica points this out where they'll actually be focused on much more serious crimes, like the child prostitution epidemic or the sex trafficking epidemic in America, rather than doing petty things like the war on drugs or combating prostitution or things that really no one's asking for, but it's on the books, so they have to do it.
So, how centralized is I don't know how to describe it. I guess the sort of the power of the institution. How centralized is it? Because I always thought that the local authorities had quite a lot of autonomy.
They do, but unfortunately they don't utilize it that much. Most of the time, local authorities all combine with a central state authority, and unfortunately the central city authority and the city authority conforms with the state authority, and the state authority conforms with the federal authority. And that's usually how the ladder pays go down and up. But the thing is, the place that was attacked, Dallas in Texas, that's one of the most decentralized police forces in America. They're one of the people who have been actively working to make sure that they're increasing, or they're not increasing, but making their engagement with people better, making sure that their practice and their methods of enforcing the law are not seen as aggressive, are not harmful to people, or not ostracizing to the general population and making people feel afraid of them. So it's like a lot of people have said, it's really shocking that this person, Micah, has decided to attack this police force, especially while they were protecting a Black Lives Matter rally, actively taking pictures at the rally with Black Lives Matter protesters. It doesn't make sense, but then again, this guy went out and mass murdered cops, so you wouldn't expect him to be reasonable.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, I mean, like with Anders Breivik, we can't just assume they're irrational, I mean, Anders Breivik was found sane. He was just he was a terrorist.
Yeah.
He was, there's no doubt about it. He was, committing terror for political gain. So I don't think we should necessarily assume these guys are actually nuts. When it's someone like I don't know, like most of the fucking spree killers in America, where they just go and do something stupid and then get themselves shot. Maybe they've got severe emotional issues and mental health problems and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the time there are people who are, legitimately politically driven, because if people buy into a set of ideas deeply enough, then it changes the way you see the world, and a lot of different things become justified.
Yeah.
It's kind of the oversimplification of morality, because a lot of people seem to think that everyone has the same morality. Like, this is obviously wrong, therefore people who do it need to be insane. No, some people just think the world works differently.
Yeah. I mean, like, literally, loads of these Black Lives Matter people don't think it's wrong to kill cops. They think that's the right thing to do. And so they're applauding it, and there we go. But I find this interesting, this quote, and I'm reading it and just thinking, this guy never played Dungeons and Dragons, did he? There's a difference between being good and being lawful. A lot of people are lawful even if the laws are unjust, just because it avoids direct punishment for that person. It doesn't mean that they're not a good person.
Yeah.
It means they're acting under compulsion. But it's interesting, but I think it's certainly flawed.
So from across the pond, what would you guys recommend for us to try and institute in America that may lower, this hostility between citizens and
Segregation.
police?
I don't know. I don't know. What do you reckon, Arch?
I think racial apartheid sounds like a good idea.
Well, I mean, it'd certainly prevent the cops are racist thing, wouldn't it? You know?
It would. In
Okay,
all seriousness,
yeah.
I generally think that guns are too prolific. English.
Prolific.
Yeah, prolific in American society. Because the simple fact is, guns might have many good parts about them, although as a Norwegian I'm generally confused by them. But the simple fact is, when you have a bunch of people with weapons, odds are that some of them will decide to use them. And then, if you come into a confrontation with the police, they might get interested in using their own weapons a bit more frequently.
What do you think of that, T?
I understand where he's coming from. Of course, I can't just say I'm going to give up my guns. I'm a anarcho-capitalist in America. That's crazy. but yeah, I do know I do get what you're saying, and definitely the culture of guns. And the thing is, the culture of guns in minority communities and communities that are actually receiving, or the Black Lives Matter say are receiving the worst punishment from police is completely different than the culture of guns in, say, rural Texas or organizations like the NRA. It's a difference between self defense, Second Amendment, liberty loving gun culture, and this gangster crime, thuggish, shoot cops, fuck the police, I hold the gun sideways because it's cool, type of culture. And
Yeah.
I think that minority communities in America really need to be educated more on guns, because getting rid of the guns it's not something that's plausible in America, unfortunately. And so I think the best thing to do would be to try and increase education of guns and try to change the culture that many of these communities associate with guns, and try to get them on board with responsible gun ownership and less dependence on criminal manifestation.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. 'Cause, I mean, I find America's gun situation to be. I'm in two minds about it, right? Because on the one hand, I can completely appreciate the idea of, if you live in a republic, you need your citizenry to keep your government in check, because republics are notorious. I mean, they are the first place that people who want great power are going to go, because great power is up for grabs for anyone. If you live in a monarchy, even no matter how ambitious you are, you're never going to get to the top. So this makes republics very powerful. All republics tend to become, as soon as they become republics, they become very powerful, and then they end up sort of falling to infighting, and they end up in becoming more insular. But anyway, so you've got to worry about the state and the reach of your government, and the American government is unbelievably powerful, and it's showing distinctly authoritarian tendencies, and the method it uses to enforce these by the police are deeply authoritarian. So I can totally understand it from a constitutional mindset, that you need your guns. Your political system requires you to be armed. Didn't Bush suspend habeas corpus as well? T.
Was that a question?
Yeah. Did Bush suspend habeas corpus? Like being able to put troops on the ground and stuff like that in the country.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So when I can completely understand the idea that the Americans. Is that habeas corpus or is that something else? Oh, fuck knows. I don't.
Is it NDAA? National Defense Authorization Act?
I don't even know now. Fuck it. But the ability to police places with your army, to like impose martial law and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you were to end up in a civil war with your government, you would need to be armed, and it's entirely possible that at some point in the future this will happen. It's a genuine possibility, I think. Not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's coming after Trump. You know, you don't know what's going on after Hillary. You know, but it's getting crazier, and you don't want to rule it out. And so I understand it from that point of view, but on the other hand, I genuinely think that the reason America has so many gun deaths is because of the sort of culture this is brought up, and just the prolific nature of guns, man. You know, everyone's like, well, you know, they'll get guns if they want. It's like, yeah, but if it's in the heat of the moment and they don't have a gun, that's, you know, you're likely to get a lot less deaths than if someone happens to have a gun in the house with them. You know, because I mean, even if it's just they go and grab a knife, okay, I can run away from a knife. You know, people can overpower someone. There's something you can do. You know, it's not as easy to kill someone. And so that I can understand the opposite argument as well. And I understand. I would prefer to live in a country that didn't have widespread gun ownership. You know, I would much prefer that than one that did. So I'm very much torn on this. It's not fucking habeas corpus. What the fuck am I talking about? Fucking no. There's a Latin term for it. I can't remember. It's fucking late. Shut up. There's a Latin term for. Hang on, chat. Come on. You must have been calling me a retard by now. No, you're not. Right. Okay. Fine.
Your fault for spouting random fucking Latin terms.
Oh.
Not all educated.
Jesus Christ.
The Magna Carta.
No. But anyway. So I don't know what the Americans should do about the guns, and it's. I mean, I think I agree with you when you say it's politically it's not going to happen. You know, it's. I don't. They're not going. I think that a large percentage of the population is certainly not going to give up their guns. So. You know.
Yeah.
I really do think, though, that if you're going to be rising up against the government, I would strongly suggest investing in something heavier than an assault rifle.
Well, aren't you guys allowed to own like actual military grade technology?
Well, what do you mean by like heavy weaponry, or are you talking about like actual?
Well, I mean, like
explosive devices,
like RPGs and stuff like that. Can you guys own that, or is that off limits?
No, we can own grenade launchers, but we can't buy grenades to launch out of them.
That's one way of policing it.
Halfway there, then.
And you can obtain C4 through the proper channels, but you know that's more for construction and things like that. But no, we can't go out and buy a drone.
Like squad automatic weapons, stuff like that.
Yeah, we can own fully automatic weapons like light machine guns as well, but it's a pretty tedious process, and you have to have like $20,000 on hand just to afford one. But if you have the means, you can get one.
Right. Okay, that's.
Because that would be handy, but you'd still probably need 80 GMs at the very least.
Well, now that we have ISIS crossing the border, we can just get it from them.
Well, they don't have them either. They're still using fucking rocket-propelled grenades from the Soviets.
Trump's going to screw you when he builds that wall. What are you going to do? You're going to be like, oh, son of a bitch, we can't even get grenades now. You know?
El Chapo's already selling tickets for the passage through the Trump wall, so I don't think it's too much of a issue.
Do you think the wall's going to happen? Do you think if he becomes president?
If he becomes president, the wall will definitely start. There will be plenty of photo ops. We'll probably get about maybe 200 miles, but after that, people are gonna be like, "Fuck this! This is stupid."
Yeah, when it starts costing a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Gonna be But the thing is, I mean, I've heard people from in the southern states with borders with Mexico who say that that illegal Mexican immigration is a major problem for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know the scale of it, but I've heard them saying that there were I don't know, shanty towns where these people have come across and there's basically nowhere for them to go, so they've set up a little sort of Mexican village or something outside the city. Is that true? Or?
Yeah. There's a lack of integration on the southern border, and it's not even just shanty towns in areas like Los Angeles where essentially if you have an immigrant population coming in, they're all going to go and find their people because that's where they're going to thrive. They're not just going to buy up a luxury condo in the suburbs, with next to Jim and Frank, go out and check their mailbox every morning with their robe. They're going to live in their established communities that have that, and they just expand from there. So there is a lack of integration in these communities, and also because they can't afford the level of living, or even if they can afford it, it's smarter for them not to. Because think about it, if you're not already not making a lot of money, it's smarter to put 5 people in one house than it is for each individual person to go out and spread throughout the state and find their own individual properties.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what I mean is, it's not illegitimate for the people in these states to say that, look, these are causing a major, at least economic burden, if not a social one as well. And
Oh
they're
yeah,
coming here
definitely.
illegally. So, I mean, them asking for a wall isn't illegitimate, is it?
It's not necessarily illegitimate because there are a lot of concerns surrounding things you just talked about, you know, like crime and and of course the economic factors. But in the same sense, a lot of it is hype. I will admit, it's not as bad as the alt writers make it out to be. A lot of people on the southern border actually don't really mind, having cross boundaries between Mexico and America. There's actually areas on the border where there's actually no border control, and people just freely cross in and out of Mexico. They go buy some things, go buy some peaches across the border, and come back. And Mexicans might come over and play volleyball with the neighbors' kids and go back. There's different areas and different perspectives of each, all of which are legitimate, but one's got to come up on top, either wall or no wall.
And I take it there's quite a strong sentiment for a wall in these places. I mean, are these the people generally agitating for it, right?
Yeah, more than likely. And even as there's also people who are not close to the border, but they're in the same culture. So like northern Texas is also anti-border because they're not on the border, but it just drifts. The sentiment just drifts, throughout the region, and the whole region centrally, assumes or concludes that, hey, this is a problem. I agree with you. We need a wall. That's where Trump comes in.
Okay, lots of people, in fact, have tweeted me. It's Posse Comitatus Act, not habeas corpus, because I'm an idiot, basically. But yeah, that was
something that Bush passed.
Yeah, suspended, actually.
Oh, suspended. Okay.
Prevented troops assembling on American soil or something.
Okay.
And yeah, it's one of the many boons of the Patriot Act, I think. Yeah, so that's interesting. Right, okay. Is there any questions from the chat or anything since we're here and talking?
How do you dissect questions from your cancerous chat, Sargon? What's your method?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to select the least cancerous ones. Build a moat between the US and Canada. Why?
I actually talked to someone last night, just to drift off topic. I just met with them. They were telling me that they did a social experiment where they were trying to go in through the Canadian border, and they only had their license. So they said when they went in, the Canadian Mounties, had no problem with it. They were like, come on in, this is enough. They ran it through their international background check system, let them through. They went and saw Niagara Falls and all that. But they said when they tried to come back in, the Border Patrol agents, the American Border Patrol agents, were so hostile. And they were like, this isn't enough. You can't get in here with a license, where in reality, they can go and do a background check. They can do international background check. They have the means. The passport isn't necessary, but it's inconvenient, and it's also part of the power dynamic that we talked about earlier, where they just like the way things are, and they want you to follow the rules. And she was just telling me, how they were like, nope, we don't have this. All I have is license. And then in the end, the Border Patrol agent just said, you know what, go. They didn't check their bags or anything. They're just like, go. I'm tired of you.
Okay, well, chat, everything's going too quickly. I can't see a damn thing. Sorry. There's too much cancer coming far too quickly.
Well, I found one. Someone asked, is this Milo's fault?
Good question. Could we indirectly blame Milo? No, I don't think so.
Oh, and someone also asks, where do you stand on the wall, Sargon?
I don't know. I don't see anything wrong. If you want to build a wall, it's your border. It strikes me it's probably going to end up being a waste of money in the long run. But I mean, it'll probably prevent like the randos who walk across. It's not going to prevent guns or drugs or anything.
Yeah.
But it'll prevent mass movement of people into areas where people don't want any more mass movement of people. So I mean, it'll do that. It'll cost them a lot of money, I imagine, but at least
we're already $16 trillion in debt.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. No, yeah, who cares? So yeah.
But now that Brexit has happened, would you want your own wall?
Well, we've got the English Channel, which is a suitable wall for us. Yeah.
Very time. The British are extremely xenophobic.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, basically, we'll probably end up invading France in about a decade. It'll be all right.
You guys will probably fill it up. Just build a dam and just fill it up with concrete.
We need to blow up the Channel Tunnel. That's what we need to do.
You know, I do actually imagine that a few EU leaders over in France is currently rediscovering Napoleon's plans on building a bridge to Britain.
Did he actually have plans for that? I didn't know that.
Tunnel. He wanted to tunnel under the channel and invade.
Well, I mean, it's certainly possible to tunnel under the channel. I mean, we know that's true.
It was at least marginally more practical at the time than his original idea was which was to lift them all over in air balloons, which turned out to be expensive.
Yeah, I'd be worried about them getting shot down as well. You know, I mean, just by people on the ground with rifles. You know, they're just floating slowly in a balloon.
But still, like a tunnel, you can block the tunnel they have, and tunnels are hard to build. If you do, however, hear me out. If you take 100,000 brown people recently arrived, give them all shovels, and point them towards piles of dirt, they'll get there eventually.
Why do they have to be brown people?
Well, it's aesthetically pleasing.
God, it is the thinking man's fetish, isn't it, Arch?
I have a reason.
Well, okay, we'll say no more there. I take it we've got nothing else to add of any use to the subject. So, unless anyone has anything, we'll end the stream.
Yeah, I think we covered quite a bit here. It was productive. I guess you want to put your thing out there if you know if any Black Lives Matter activists are in the chat.
If any Black Lives Matter activists happen to come across any of this, contact any one of us on Twitter or something, and just, you know, I'd be happy to give you an interview in good faith. You know, I'd be happy to discuss the issue rationally, as if you're, you know, the sort of the good supporter of Black Lives Matter or something, because I just don't see it. It's just the people using the hashtag seem fucking awful. And then the regressives supporting the hashtag are fucking awful. And it's just like, I don't want to just do that. But I mean, can anyone point to one who's not like a terrible person?
Have you tried getting John? God, what's his name? The Young Turks guy. I don't think anyone's ever reached out to him to try and talk to him, but he's.
I know the one the guy who looks gay, but
yeah,
he was gay, but he just looks gay. I'd love to talk to him actually. That'd be entertaining.
John Latarola.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'd like to talk to him. I think it'd be entertaining because I've seen I'm so close to doing a response video. I watched the Young Turks still. Occasionally, just see like the regressive angle. You know, what's the sort of the regressive position on this issue, and they're always on just the fucking. It is the regressive side as well. It's just the side that, I mean, every time Jimmy Dore talks about Islam, the Catholic Church comes up, and it's just like, Jimmy, how, like, you know, and every time something like this happens, they're like, yeah, but like, what about white people? And it's like, what are you doing? You know, this is.
Yeah, I really can't bear the Young Turks that much anymore. It's almost to the point where it's like, I know that when I go it's going to be regressive, but it's to the point where it's like regressive, like I can't even take you seriously. Like you you got to be reading a script. You got to just think, what's the most regressive thing we can say? How can we just up the ante today? It's like sometimes it's just like you, even from a regressive standpoint, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, it really is like a competition with them, isn't it? Like, how can we misrepresent things today? And I love the way they talk about themselves as like a news organization. It's like, what news have you ever broken? You know, do you even have journalists? You know, do you have anyone who leaves your studio and doesn't just use Google? Because I mean, if you don't, then you're on the same fucking level as I am. You know,
they broke the news about Brexit leaving the euro.
Well, that was news to everyone, actually.
I miss the old days when propaganda organizations actually called themselves propaganda organizations.
Yeah. I miss the old days when you didn't know the news was lying to you. You know, I maybe I was just naive. I mean, obviously I must have been, you know, when I was young. But I swear the BBC's got worse. I swear to God, I've been watching it degrade in real time. You know, over the last 20 years, because it used to be pretty objective. I swear, but it's just these days. Every time I read it, I'm just like, you fucks. I know there's another side to that. You know,
Well, now that you can look up sources in like 4 seconds, I think everybody's becoming more cynical because now they can just see the bullshit and say, they can do like a quick Google search and see, no, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Whereas before you had to take the word on it for a while, you had to wait for someone else to come up with some information on next week's episode of the news, something like that.
Yeah. And you know what the worst part of the state of the British media, at least, is that the people doing proper investigative journalism are the sort of right-wing rags that you wouldn't want to read, you know, like that you wouldn't want to take seriously. But they're the people who are actually going out and investigating things, like the Daily Mail and the fucking Daily Express and the Star. Sometimes they actually send journalists to places and get them to do things that journalists should do. And it's just, I can't believe, like, these are the people actually doing investigative journalism these days. It's just, I guess it must have been fucking economically viable or something, you know, because I don't want these. I mean, I can't remember the last story the Guardian broke. You know, when was the last time the Guardian sent an investigator somewhere to do something, you know, to discover this new thing? The regressive media are so fucking lazy, you know, and the right-wing media are less lazy, but they also have an agenda. So it's like, oh god, I've got to take everything with a pinch of salt.
Do you guys have any alternatives to the BBC in Britain?
Oh yeah, there are loads of, like, you know, every station's got their own fucking.
Okay.
You know, their own news site, like Sky, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5. Then you've got all the various papers, then you've got various Sky networks, and you know, there are loads. It's just they're all mainstream. That's the problem, you know.
Yeah.
But then I don't really want them to be like Alex Jones style alternative. So it's honestly,
the balance is lost.
Yeah, I think that's why people on YouTube are doing so well these days, though. You know, just for perspectives on these issues that just aren't being represented elsewhere.
Yeah.
Thank the heavens for YouTube, because if we got this information via Twitter, I think we would all be, well, shooting ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah. Twitter. You know what bothers me as well? Is how much news I see sourced from Twitter. Do you not see
Twitter?
No, seriously, do you not see that? Like, tweets will feature in articles about these tweets, and you're just like, fucking hell, man. You know, are you really so lazy as to write your day's worth of work that you get paid for on someone else's tweet?
Yeah.
Entire articles on tweets. The tweets themselves are news pieces now.
Oh god, yeah, I've seen loads, and you know, like on the Huffington Post and Breitbart, you know, they're both guilty of, like, and you know, it's just like Christ. But to be fair though, Breitbart, again, one of the right-wing sites that actually sends journalists to places to find out things, and it's just like, guys, the left wing needs to get off its arse, so you're not looking like lazy, useless fucks. You're making yourselves irrelevant and obsolete. For the love of God, do something. Get out of fucking rooms. Do something. But yeah, anyway,
you can't send people to non-safe spaces, Sargon. That's crazy talk.
Well, yeah, and with like Lauren Southern going down to the Calais jungle and stuff like that with Rebel. Again, where is the left-wing investigative journalism gone? But hey, maybe I'm just not seeing it or something, because there's only so many Jessica Valenti articles I can sit through before I kill myself. I have to log off the Guardian. I tell you, they are so fucking regressive these days as well. Just scary. The amount of like Brexit articles where they were literally just saying, well, democracy actually is a bad idea, and it's just like, no, just all right. Well, don't even, if we disagree on whether I should have a vote for the people in charge, I mean, it wasn't the Guardian article. It was one called Fusion, and they literally used the term "a democracy of the elites," and I was just like, wow, that's so far off the reservation. It's just, where are you going? Well, we can have a democracy of the elites. What are you fucking talking about? That's not a democracy, you numbnuts. Just, oh god. Sorry, I'm just flabbergasted at the state of these fucking things. But anyway, thanks a lot for joining me, guys. It's been very interesting, and it's always good to get the perspective of an American, and that you are black is probably also very helpful on this particular issue. Because race is it's about race, isn't it? It's just all about fucking race.
It's all about race, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think Europe's as racist as America is, man. I really don't. Race
We're
is
getting there. Give us another 100,000 Muslims and we'll get there.
Maybe, actually. But even then, Islam isn't a race, goddammit.
Yes, but they sure do piss us off on brown people.
Islam isn't a race of peace. God's fucking arch. It's a religion of peace. You know that. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for joining, and thanks everyone listening, and I'll see you later.